Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I am filming a video that will go up tomorrow, and everything else that was on the list is just going to get pushed back a day because this is important and we need to talk about it. So, as you have all probably seen, I did not post a video today, today being June 2nd, but you've hopefully saw the post that I made very, very bright and early in the morning about having a day of silence because of the police brutality that is happening all across our country right now against people of color. I wanted to address this on my YouTube channel, but I didn't necessarily know how I wanted to go about this situation, because I think it is important that we come together and talk about this as a nation. I think we need to be able to look and see the issues and the systematic racism that is still very much alive today. I am seeing too much justification for what is going on. So I figured the best way to go about this, as far as I'm concerned, is to, one, talk about why it is important to stand with the Black Lives Matter movement, why it is important that LGBT people stick together and stand with our friends in need, and why I think it's important as a country to recognize that there's a problem in our system. I am very vocal on every other one of my social media platforms about this situation. Now, granted, I don't have a Facebook where I don't link my YouTube to Facebook and whatever. And that's probably for the best of people who watch my content, to be honest, because at the end of the day, I don't really care who you are. I'm going to call you on your racist bullshit. I will call you out so fast. I do not tolerate it. I do not tolerate homophobia. I do not tolerate racism. I do not tolerate hate, period. So when I see things like that happening, I'm very quick and very vocal when it comes to my responses. I feel like it's really easy on a platform like YouTube to just create another video and give like a 5-minute escape, a 10-minute escape from the world around us. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I too get anxious and turn to YouTube to take my mind off of the situation. However, I do think it is still important to use this platform to speak up. If y'all are unaware of the situations going on, George Floyd was murdered at the hands of the police, where they knelt on his neck for 9 minutes, cutting airflow to his brain. They starved him of oxygen, and as he cried out for his mother and cried out that he couldn't breathe, the police officer readjusted and put even more pressure on his neck. This has brought forward a large movement of protests across the nation. All 50 states, we have seen some form of protest. And it is so much more than one death. This is about years of oppression and systematic racism that that our country was founded on. Our Constitution and human rights was not written with people of color in mind. Our national anthem's second verse is racist. All of our founding fathers owned slaves. Like, this country was not founded on freedom for everyone. This country was founded on the freedoms of the white man to get away from the Catholic Church and practice their own Protestant religion. So when we want to talk about America being a free country, sure, it was founded on the values of freedoms, but it was founded by people who were fighting for their freedoms, and they were protecting their own freedoms by taking away the freedoms of others. Being of color in America right now is not the same as being white in America right now. And there's so many people who try to justify it and say that it is, or they'll try to say dumbass shit like slavery ended, da 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 da. Like, no, sister, that's not it. That's not it. Sure, we can write down on paper and say that all the slaves have to be free, but that doesn't mean that these systems that were created are going to treat them any different. I watched a video. It was a TikTok of a woman of color who said, and I might mess up the quote a little bit. I'm going to dig and try and find the TikTok and I will play it. But she said, slavery didn't end, it changed forms. Okay, so the video file is being weird and it won't import the audio. So here is her on TikTok. I suggest watching the video. We are still, as a country, taking away these freedoms. And it's not just the freedoms of people of color. It's the LGBT. It is the immigrant families being separated at the border. It is the people of color dying and fearing for their lives every day by the police legal system that is meant to make Americans feel safe. However, that's the important one right now. This segues me into why I think it is important for members of the LGBT to stand by our friends in need right now. If you are a member of the LGBT, you are probably aware of a thing we do every year called Pride. I love being able to have a month where we can appreciate the distance that we have come for our freedoms in America. We still have a long way to go, but we have come so far. But here's the thing. Let's take a look at how Pride started. Pride started as a riot, the Stonewall riots to be exact. And the Stonewall riots were started by a transgender woman of color. That is why we have Pride. And granted, we still had a long way to go because it wasn't until how many generations later that I can finally marry my future husband in all 50 states. The Black Lives Matter movement has stood with us. They have stood with the immigrants at the border. They have stood against police brutality in all forms, even when the victim was white. Because at the end of the day, they value so much more. They understand that we are stronger fighting together. And if they're going to be there for us, then I don't see why we can't be there for them. It baffles me at the amount of members of the LGBTQ community who can be so racist. We have a hard enough problem as an LGBTQ community showing love for our trans brothers and sisters. I've met gay and lesbian, cisgender people who are so transphobic, and I just don't understand. We are all experiencing similar hatred just for existing. How can you sit here and cry for freedom, cry for equality, but then sit there and try and deny that equality to somebody else? And quite frankly, I don't even know if the LGBTQ is ready to have this conversation. I don't know if they're ready to sit down and look at themselves and see that they are some of the most hateful fucking people on this planet. We have no blacks, no femmes, no Asians, no fats all the time on your Grindr profile. 1 minute, they're posting a picture about Pride and wanting to celebrate Pride. But then the next post they share is an anti-riot post, knowing damn well that our Pride celebration came from a riot itself. We will be stronger together. Our voice will be louder together. Finally, why I think it's important to talk about this as a nation. America is divided. Horribly, horribly divided. And Donald Trump is making it worse. Yesterday, I was watching CNN. Peaceful protesters were shot at with rubber bullets and tear gassed so that Donald Trump could hold a Bible and threaten to bring the military into the protests. When not even a month ago, white men stood with fully loaded guns crying about the quarantine. And not a single thing was done. The police were not called in to start tear gassing. They were not called in to start shooting rubber bullets because they didn't picture these men as a threat, even though they were standing there with loaded guns. Now, people of color swarm to the streets holding signs that say justice for George Floyd. People are holding signs that say Black Lives Matter. People are holding signs that say no justice, no peace. And they are seen as a threat. America is divided, not because we don't agree on a political issue. Human rights should not be a political issue. The color of your skin should not be a political issue. America is divided because it harbors hatred for groups of people who are just trying to live. And America's not talking about it. America doesn't want to talk about it. America wants to cry, all lives matter. 2 weeks after they protested the closing of businesses, restaurants, hair salons. Obviously, their lives didn't matter to you because you wanted them to have to go to work during a global pandemic so you can get a haircut, so you don't have to cook for yourself tonight. All lives didn't matter to you when you were told you had to wear a mask inside Walmart because, hey, it's your choice, right? People of color don't choose to be hated against. They don't choose to have to suffer through oppression. And yet, you can't even respect them enough to say that their lives matter. Nobody said they were the only lives that matter. Nobody said that their lives were more important. But right now, their lives are the ones who are on the line. Their lives are the ones that we need to be talking about because their lives are the ones that aren't being taken seriously. Next time you're on Facebook and somebody posts something hashtagged Black Lives Matter and you want to think of responding with all lives matter, think of it this way. If you were living in a small neighborhood and your neighbor's house caught on fire and the firefighters came over and started to put out the fire at their house, and you went up to the fireman and said, why aren't you spraying my house? My house matters too. Your house isn't the one on fire. Your house is fine. Nothing is threatening your house right now. So why should we turn our attention to your house and ignore your neighbor's house who's on fire? This channel will be a safe space. I will not tolerate any racist comments, any homophobic comments. And at the end of the day, I don't care about your opinion, if that's what you want to call it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your opinion is on somebody else's life. You shouldn't get to decide. Your opinion shouldn't be the reason somebody has to face oppression. I'm not going to be able to change the minds of every racist person I interact with. and I understand that. But at the end of the day, you're living in America, land of the free, for everyone. If you're triggered by the color of someone's skin, or the person that they decide to love in the bedroom, if you're upset that two men are walking down the street holding hands, get over it, snowflake. Leave. The country will be better off without you. This video has definitely been really heavy, and I don't necessarily intend on constantly posting heavy content. However, if I plan on doing a daily upload for the entire month of June, some of them are going to be heavy. I originally planned on making this month all about advocating for the LGBT. That was my goal. One thing that I wanted was to ask everybody to reach out to a loved one or a friend or anyone that they know who is LGBT, and I want you guys to reach out to them and express positivity, express your love for them. Sometimes when you are gay in America, it feels like you're not loved. And I wanted to make that the biggest point of June. But obviously, we have more important topics because, sure, the fight for the LGBT rights is far from over. But right now, our friends are dying of police brutality. Peaceful protesters are being aggravated by police, turning them into riots. I've been to peaceful protests. I've had friends who went to big city protests that started peaceful until a police officer aggravated the protest. Don't you think it's funny that piles of bricks are just lining up everywhere? Don't you think it's funny that all of this looting is happening at the same time? Don't you think it's funny that all of the places where the police fight back against the protesters are where they turn into riots? I've seen so many accounts of sheriffs taking off their riot gear, taking a knee, and walking with the protests, and they stay peaceful. Nobody wants violence. That's literally what all these protests are about. We're sick of violence. So now I'm going to extend that challenge. If you have friends of color, family, neighbors, check in on them. Let them know that you care. Fight with them. Don't try to make excuses for racism. Don't try to justify police brutality. And don't fucking say all lives matter in response to this movement. Because all you are doing is silencing their narrative, silencing their story, invalidating the pain and oppression that they have felt since America began. Be a good person. I would love to have a great pride, and I hope that we do. But first, I want to let the world know that Black Lives Matter. I'll see y'all next time.